All right, welcome. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the NAIOP Southern Nevada April Breakfast Program. I'm Reed Gottesman. I'm your chapter president for 2023, and I'd like to thank each and every one of you in attendance, both on Zoom and in person, for allowing me the privilege of serving as your president. Keep it down back there, please. Thank you. Let's take a moment to honor our President's Circle sponsors. They are a critical component of the success of our NAIOP chapter. And we're going to start with our platinum sponsors. Cox Business, special thanks to you, supporter of our chapter for 19 years, platinum sponsor. And Schnitzer Properties also stepped up to the ranks of platinum sponsor. Schnitzer Properties has supported NAIOP Southern Nevada since the turn of the century in 2000. We also want to show our gratitude to our gold sponsors, Kimley Horn and Associates, Spotlight 2023 Engineering Firm of the Year, Majestic Realty Company, whose leader Rod Martin, I'm not sure if he's here today, but he's a Spotlight Lifetime Achievement Award recipient and one of the MVPs of NAIOP Southern Nevada. Nevada General Construction, thank you, Thomas, and thank you, Micah, for being so involved. And I saw Doug Roberts over here in the front, Panettone Development Company, and Doug Roberts did a fantastic job last month on the panel. Prologis, we have Lisa Brady here today, and they are our 2023 Spotlight Development Firm of the Year. And of course, our good friends at Southern Nevada Water Authority, who, as always, I want to thank and commend them for the difficult work that they do to safeguard the future of our community. All right, silver sponsors. Next, we have our bronze sponsors. And finally, thank you to our copper level sponsors. As always, if you're not yet a President's Circle sponsors, just do it, make it happen. You're going to get way more out of it than you think. Take action, make it happen. Speak to Jonna, speak to me, Katrina, Lisa Brady, who is our sponsorship chair. Lots of options on who to speak to, but make it happen. All right, I'm going to step away from here for just a second because we have an announcement from a very special person this morning. It is with great pleasure that I introduce former chapter president Julie Cleaver of the Howard Hughes Corporation. Julie serves on the NAIOP corporate board as our chapter's representative, and this year she was appointed as vice chair of NAIOP National's Education Committee. Julie is also on the editorial board of Development Magazine. Put your hands together for Julie Cleaver.
Wow, thank you. Good morning. I want to ask everybody, how many people feel like they've been shot out of a canyon on a regular basis? Because I don't know about you guys, but I sure have for the past, I don't know. It feels like since the pandemic finished, that's my life. And I think one of the things that has helped me is taking advantage of some of the resources that we have here. So it's not just coming to the breakfasts, which is great. We're going to learn a lot today, and we learn a lot every time we come. But it's also taking advantage of some of the resources that we have that corporate puts together for us. So going on the NAIOP website, getting taking part on the online courses, going to some of the conferences. There are people out here. I haven't done this yet, but they've gotten involved with some of the forums, and we should talk about that. Corporate board is something that we haven't talked a whole lot about as a chapter. What can it do for us? You know, it's kind of like the benefits of your company. It's there. We just need to take advantage of it. The main function of corporate is really to make us more effective, I would say more successful professionals in the real estate industry. Not taking advantage of some of those resources is a little silly, right? So we should look at the website. Hopefully you'll do that. I wanted to give you some, I'm not the only liaison between corporate board and you, but David Strickland is also a liaison. I don't know if he's here today or not. Hey, in the back of the room, David. One other shout out I wanted to give was to Dan Palmieri. Dude, you've been on the Jumbotron at VGK Games for the past 2 games. Yes. I don't know how you do it, but, keep going. Maybe you could wear a NAIOP shirt or something next time. I don't know. That might be too nerdy. I wanted to give you some quick highlights of what corporate's doing. We created a chapter support fund and earmarked $1.5 million for the fund to support chapter initiatives across the country. That's basically for anything that the chapter feels will best serve the interests of their members. And that's, for our chapter, we are applying for a grant to help us fund a government affairs coordinator position. The marketing department for corporate made the newsletter on the NAIOP website an AI-enabled newsletter, so it means that every time you click on a topic on the newsletter, if it's for office, if it's for adaptive reuse, whatever it is, they're going to start populating that newsletter so that it really speaks to you specifically about the things that you're interested in. And that's a new feature. That's kind of cool. We're also launching micro learning videos that are somewhere between 2 minutes to 8 minutes long. They're on topics like best practices for navigating the development approval process. Not all of us know how to do that. There's a lot of things that are just very simple things that we kind of go, yeah, we probably should know how to do that, but maybe we don't. This is a safe place to go because who's going to know except for you and the computer? So you should take advantage of that. We've also launched 2 online courses that are new this year. Private equity, fund structure and management is one, and fundamentals of adaptive reuse is another. So anyway, I'm just up here to encourage you. I'm the face of corporate. David's the face of corporate. If you have any questions about what corporate can do for you, or you have some suggestions, please let us know, because we have a direct line to those guys in Washington. So that's it. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
All right, go corporate. All right, before we get to committee announcements, I have a few comments about what's happening within our chapter. As some of you may know, we held the 26th Annual Spotlight Awards at Red Rock Casino Resort and Spa. We had over 700 people in attendance. We honored 32 projects, companies, and people. And the committee, led by Cassie Catania-Sue and Gaetana Cafaso, did an outstanding job. I've got to say, I always showed up at Spotlight Awards and thought, yeah, this is cool. But you know what? That event doesn't make itself. It doesn't happen. It's because of the committee. They're really dedicated, and they did an outstanding job. And how about a round of applause for the committee? And congratulations to all our award winners. If you're interested in who they are, just check out our website. Next up, in the exciting world of NAIOP Southern Nevada, was NAIOP Day in Carson City. Earlier this week, a delegation of members of NAIOP Southern Nevada and NAIOP Northern Nevada joined forces in Carson City to represent the commercial real estate industry at the Nevada legislature. We met with elected leaders, including Governor Lombardo, and our job was to represent the interests of our industry. So NAIOP is always fighting for everyone in this room, and we had the forum to advocate for and discuss the issues that are most important to our industry. So I think it was a successful day. All right, can our committee chairs line up for their announcements, please? These are the volunteers that really make our organization go. So thanks to each and every one of you.
How's it going, guys? I'm Cooper Powell with Logic Commercial on behalf of the Community Service Committee. Next week, we're getting ready for our Make-A-Wish 5K. We're really close to our goal of raising $20,000 to grant a child's wish this year, so please use the QR code and for that last push. Also, during the month of May, we'll be collecting donations for street teens, so be on the lookout for some more information via email for that. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Shawnee Coleman, Clark County Economic Development. We have an exciting members-only workshop happening next Friday on the 28th. It's called Athletic Support. We will have executives from F1, Super Bowl, and Harry Reid Airport talking about the backstory behind how our city puts on special events. So, exciting opportunity to learn about what's going on in our city. Look forward to seeing you all there. Thank you.
Good morning, I'm Guy Gugino with Union Bank. I'm here to talk about the golf tournament. It is on May 4th. May the 4th be with you. Hopefully all of you got to see the final episode of The Mandalorian last night. I won't spoil it for you. We do have a couple sponsorships left. There's the rideshare sponsorship, and we do have a couple tees left. You do have to be a member or member firm to be a sponsor. Right now, we are looking for volunteers, so any member or member firms that want to volunteer, it's a fun day, great way to meet a bunch of people. And as always, raffle prizes. We can use raffle prizes. You do not have to be a member to give a raffle prize, so if you have clients who want to promote themselves, great time to do that, either basket or gift card. We ask for a $100 denomination as a minimum, and we're willing to accept all raffle prizes. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. I'm Micah with Nevada General Construction. I'm here with the membership committee. The biggest thing on our docket is 6 weeks from now, May 31st, the Aviators game. We got the entire third base deck. The registration is currently open. It's open to members and non-members, so bring the entire office. Come on out. It includes food, drink. It'd be a really, really good time. And then save the date, August 3rd, for our annual bowling tournament. Benefits the Community Service Committee and all of the work that we do going into the holidays. There'll be raffles and sponsorship opportunities for those. If you have any questions about those, feel free to come see me. Back to Reed.
Thanks, Micah. We'd really like to see everyone at the Aviators game, so do your best to attend. All right, are there any new members here today? If there are, please stand up. Well, all right, there we go. All right. See this? Please say hello to her. She, first time in the room, it's really intimidating, a little bit lonely, so step up and say hello. Give a warm welcome for NAIOP Southern Nevada. All right, membership, we're doing really well. We currently have 689 members. Owen Sherwood is our membership chairperson. He's doing a great job. And please speak to him if you'd like to find out about membership. Let's take a moment to recognize our 2023 breakfast meeting sponsors. Everyone in the industry knows that third Thursday of each month, NAIOP breakfast at the Orleans is the place to be. And these 9 companies are critical to our success. And here they are, I'll list them. Affordable Concepts, Bob Potter. Carpenter Sellers Delgado Architects. Cox Business. Doherty Properties. Gensler. Martin Harris Construction. NV Energy. Schnitzer Properties. Southern Nevada Water Authority. And SR Construction. All right, time to announce our breakfast sponsor of the day, Cox Business. And a special thank you to this morning's program sponsor, Cox Business. They've been a valuable support of our chapter since 2004, and I am pleased to invite Bill Luce to the stage, business manager for Cox Business. Bill has been with Cox for quite a while and has provided telecom solutions for over 20 years, and I would like to thank Bill for his service to the country. He is an Air Force veteran. He's also a father of twin 17-year-old girls, and he's part of NAIOP Southern Nevada since 2018. In his role, Bill provides business solutions to medium and large businesses, including new construction. Bill, come on up.
Well, thank you very much. It's really great to be here and how much this valley has grown. I'd like you to just think back 20 years ago, what this skyline looked like. The only sports we had in town was those running rebels. And then you think how technology has changed in your business. Think of everything that you've seen just in the last 10 to 20 years. So I'd like to play a short little video, if you could.
In the beginning, we were a playground, a destination for countless desert getaways. Technology has always been at the heart of our city, but now, because of the talent we attract and our perseverance, we've risen above the novelty and neon lights to become a worldwide sports and entertainment mecca. We used to say what happens here only happens here, but now what happens here only happens here because of technology-enabled experiences and organizations. Our technology is helping national events succeed at the local level, including the NFL Draft and NHL All-Star Game, to name a few. Cox Business makes a difference in our community, our schools, and our healthcare systems. It's our goal to help businesses in our Las Vegas community raise the bar to an unimaginable level. We are proud to be with you today, and we will continue to be here, bringing your business forward in 2023 and beyond.
It's really exciting just to see how much this valley is changing now that we're attracting pro sports. This is now a destination businesses want to consider. It was announced on the news this morning. The A's are signed for a piece of land this morning, and NBA won't be far behind. For everyone in this room is part of that, whether in whatever role you're in, you're helping this make it happen. And Cox Business, out of all of our 15 markets, was number one 3 of the last 5 years, and that's because of everything that you guys are doing to help us provide those places we need to provide connectivity to, Wi-Fi, and all the technologies that go with each of these businesses. So thank you very much and appreciate being here.
Thank you, Bill, and thank you, NAIOP. I mean, Cox, to your service to NAIOP. All right. This year, each month at our breakfast program, we're going to recognize contributions that an individual NAIOP member has made or is currently making to our chapter. In January, we recognized Sean Donosky, DC Building Group. In February, Jennifer Turchin, Coda Group. In March, Jen Levine, Realcomm Advisors. This month, we're recognizing someone that has quietly made a name for herself in our industry. I remember about 10 years ago, my buddy Adam Malin told me that he was bringing in the daughter of his late mentor and as his junior associate. At the time, I really didn't think much about it. Now, a decade later, it proved to be a great decision both for his business and for this organization. Please hold your applause for a moment, but today we will recognize Dina Marcello. Dina is an executive vice president at Colliers International and one of the finest retail brokers in our market. Dina joined NAIOP in 2015 and is a DLI graduate, class of 2016. Dina was a panelist in a breakfast program earlier this year, and last year she was a speaker in one of our education workshops. But from a NAIOP perspective, what I really want to recognize Dina is for her current role as chair of the DLI committee. I've watched her in action. She's gone above and beyond the call of duty. She's been instrumental in executing the high-quality program that this year's DLI class is receiving. And believe me, what she's pulled off, it's not easy. Dina, she only makes it look easy. So Dina, she's also received lots of well-deserved accolades here at NAIOP. The Malin Marcello team has won several Spotlight Awards for Retail Broker of the Year, 2017, 2020, and 2022. Ladies and gentlemen, stand up, please. Not everyone, but yeah. Put your hands together for a star in our industry and within our organization. Thank you, Dina. All right, it's time to get to the reason why we're all here. We'll segue into today's program. And as everyone knows, Dan Tutlin will lead our Q&A session at the end of the program. There's paper and pens, there should be on each table. Write down your questions, and our committee members will retrieve them from each table. For those participating virtually, the Q&A will be monitored, and we look forward to your questions. We'll start the Q&A about 9-ish, and we'll conclude today's program at about 9:15. All right, I'm going to walk over there because I'm the moderator. All right, is this thing on? All right, how's that for a smooth transition? I'll take off my president's hat, put on my moderator hat, and today we have a broker program. I believe today's discussion will be really informative. We have leaders from 3 disciplines of commercial real estate: office, retail, and industrial. I really like the makeup of today's panel because we have a lot of experience. However, 2 out of 3 of our panelists have never addressed NAIOP before. So what we're doing today is we're providing new voices for our audience, and I expect some very fresh perspectives today. One of the things Dan Tutlin and I always discuss is that we want our audience to leave our programs with a piece of information that they did not have before they came in today. So that's the challenge that we give our speakers today. So why don't you gentlemen come up and take your seats. All right, I'm going to start with a quick introduction. I'm not reading full bios because I want to get into it. And then I'm going to give each panelist just a quick moment to tell us a little bit about themselves and their practice. So first, Marc Magliarditi. Marc is a first vice president at CBRE. And from where I sit, it's been really fun watching Marc assume a leadership role within the office brokerage community. And I think our audience will really appreciate the insight that Marc will bring today. Marc, just take a second, tell about yourself and some specifics about your practice.
Yeah, thanks everyone. My first time on the panel here with NAIOP, so appreciate the invite. I've been at CB now just a little over a year. And prior to that was at Logic Commercial, obviously focused and specialized in office and sales and leasing. Been in town this year will be 20 years, and it's not my first performance at the Orleans Arena. I did at the Orleans Hotel. I have had some performances here in my former career playing hockey, so I'm glad to be back on stage at the Orleans.
If he knew then what he knows now, right? And you mentioned sports, and there's some news today, and we will incorporate that into our discussion later. Next up is the gentleman to my left, Scot Marker. He's a director of retail services at Cushman Wakefield. And Scot is a true professional and a true veteran of the industry. And we wanted Scot because when we're looking for somebody to discuss retail, his name kept popping up as someone who's just extremely knowledgeable about retail real estate. So he's a new voice for us as well. And Scot, I think he'll have a lot to share with us today. So take a moment and tell about yourself.
Very nice words, Reed. Thank you very much. No pressure. I've been at Cushman Wakefield for about 2 years. And prior to that, I was with Colliers International for a lot of years, 20-something. Time flies. And I took a chance to go to Cushman Wakefield and push myself out of my boundaries, my safety zone, and try to grow. So I've seen the town grow. I've been here since '81, so glad to be here and hope I do not disappoint.
And I am excited for everyone to hear you on this panel today. And gentleman over there kind of doesn't really need to be introduced. Dan Doherty is a vice chairman. He is not a new voice for us, but he's really among the best voices. With my day job at Schnitzer Properties, I have the privilege to work with Dan and his team. And Team Dig is extremely professional and knowledgeable. And few people I've come across in my career articulate as well as Dan does. So I think it's a real privilege for us to have him on stage today. So Dan, very quickly, give a little blurb about what you do.
So started in the business right out of school in 1989, which is before a third of this room was born. And very lucky to put into industrial, and I still feel extremely fortunate today to be leasing and selling warehouses for a lot of people in this room.
Right on. All right, so I think we've established that there is a lot of knowledge on this panel, and it's my job to verbally extract that knowledge out of these guys. So the way I'm going to do that is with the following structure. I'm going to start with an extremely general question just to get everybody comfortable, get everybody talking and warmed up. Then I want to dig into each panelist with what I would consider a more burning question, something I think is very interesting and I hope that everyone else does. And then we'll get into market questions with the goal to cover topics, demand, supply, capital markets, and of course the hot topic of the day, sports and the Las Vegas A's. So there's a lot here, certainly a limited amount of time, so we'll see what we could get to. And finally, we know the real value of these panels is to get past the headlines to see what's really going on here in Southern Nevada. So that's one more challenge for this group here. So we'll start with a general question, and it is extremely general. And it's, what's your overall feeling in your commercial real estate discipline? And I want to start with our veteran panelist, Dan Doherty, on industrial.
So I used to have investors ask me a long time ago, developers, I'm going to go do here, I'm going to go work here, I'm going to go do something in Phoenix, Salt Lake, because I want to diversify. And I would say, why would you want to diversify? Vegas never has a downturn. We had one my first couple of years in the business in '92 when we invaded Iraq. And I think we built 800,000 square feet that year. And it was really slow, but I was an up-and-comer. $30,000, $40,000 was a lot of money, and so I was able to make it work. It's a different story right now. We have so many headwinds. Sometimes I wake up in the morning, I was so happy to read about the baseball team because I'm just wondering what the next curveball thrown at us is going to be. But in spite of all that, I think industrial real estate in Las Vegas is really showing its resiliency, its ability to adapt and overcome. With a massive construction and planned pipeline ahead of us, we still seem to be moving a lot of companies here and even expanding local companies. And that's still with the convention center not operating at 100%. So I feel grateful for what I do, the people I work with. The market's doing well. We delivered 2 million square feet in the first quarter and we absorbed all of it. Now there's more to follow to that story, but at 1.5% vacancy, I don't think we could be in a better position with all the headwinds coming at us over the next 2 years.
And you say the word resiliency, and I think that that's a theme within this market for sure. I'd like to move to retail. Scott, what's your general feeling?
You know, it's interesting to hear Dan's overview of that. And retail kind of follows the same, although on a smaller scale. We have seen this city at times just grow in certain pockets. And when I started, it was Summerlin, Green Valley, and that was it. And what we're seeing now, what we're experiencing is the entire market. You can go point in a direction and something is happening in all areas of town. You've got the Green Valley with St. Rose and the Costco that's opened a few years ago, but that phased project is massive and it took forever to get permits and such, but it's still thriving. And going all the way to the 15, as you go around the valley, you look at Blue Diamond Road, and that's going all the way almost to Mountain's Edge, and it's going to go past that. Durango 215 and Rainbow 215 south of that is probably the most concentrated, most active area of town now with Uncommons and narrative office projects. The retail kind of beat the office, but it's filling in and becoming established. And then East Craig Road, there are probably 15 new dining concepts out there that weren't there 2 years ago. So it's great to see the valley grow and all these spaces and all new concepts come into the market. And we're sitting at a 5.3% vacancy, so not quite as fortunate as industrial, but still a very healthy market for retail.
That's right. And Marc, before I get into your burning question, just a brief feeling that you have with the office right now.
Yeah, so office is a little more challenging, but it depends on the sub-market and the product, of course. Everyone's heard the catchphrase, flight to quality and amenities. That's very real, and you're seeing it with the new construction in the Southwest. You could read the headlines, and I could spin that office is positive, and I believe that it is, and I think the outlook is going to be positive. But there's negativity as well in the market with the Hughes Center announcement. So really sub-market specific for office, but generally I think the outlook is good. There's not a lot of new product out there. The product that there is out there is starting to fill up, and once it's filled up, there's going to be a lack of supply for that type of product. So from my perspective, I think the outlook is going to be good for office, and for all the reasons we talked about, you know, sports, and it's changing the dynamic of our market and becoming more of a sophisticated corporate office market.
All right. So that's we'll kind of funnel it down now. And I want to start with Marc. And this is something that I've thought about on these panels, and I see Tom Van Betten back there, and he's walking out for this, but we spend a lot of time on it. It's actually probably best that he does. We spend a lot of time on these panels discussing our shiny new Class A office buildings. For our audience, were you guys aware that only 15% of our office market is Class A? So what I'd like to do is take the time to discuss the other 85% of our office market. According to Colliers' latest market report, Class C office space has by far the lowest office vacancy rate, 7%, followed by Class B at 11% vacancy, while Class A has an overall vacancy rate of almost 22%. So, Marc, can you talk to us a little bit about demand for these less discussed pieces of most of our office market?
Sure. So, again, very real stats, but what I would say is we're typically a smaller space office market, and those Class C, especially maybe some of the Class B, usually lend themselves to smaller tenants, and we have a lot of those and less of the big corporate users. We also have a lot of new supply that's come on the market that's affected the Class A vacancy until that gets filled up. But I think it's going to, the new shiny toy that you mentioned, Reed, is going to lift the B and C. We're already seeing some of the Class B product, or A minus, however you want to categorize it, rates have jumped up. They're benefiting to some of that new construction with, you know, big price tags on them that maybe some users can't afford. And like I said, being a smaller space market, those users are going to flock to the B and some of the C. But overall, in the long term, I think some of that, we'll start to see some of that C move up to B, and there'll be some move up here as things tighten up as far as supply.
That's great, and I think we'll dig more into that as we get into more of our market discussion. But Scott, I wanted to touch with you now, and the headlines told us that retail died. So why is it that Southern Nevada retail vacancy is at a 20-year low, and retail property that is under construction and due for delivery in 23 is near all-time highs?
What was the question?
Why is retail doing well when you turn on the news and it's not doing well?
Our market is resilient. Our city's resilient, but diving into the retail commercial real estate, there's new concepts, there's demand, this is a hot spot. This is where people want to be. The world all knows Las Vegas, and I think a lot of our new relocated residents from other states are kind of bringing a demand for what they had in their city, or the ever-evolving, I need a new place to try, I need a new cup of coffee. It just seems to figure out how to keep evolving and addressing the demand.
So do you have a place you recommend for a cup of coffee?
There's some new concepts looking in town. Everyone loves their Starbucks and their Dutch Bros, but I think you're going to see some new concepts coming along. Better Buzz, I think, is one of them that I think Danny Hubbard's working on, and I probably shouldn't have said that. But
there's that piece of information we were looking for.
There are a number of concepts that are focused on this market. Mm-hmm. The hard part's going to be trying to find the space, find the right space, because we are at 5.3% overall vacancy. but trying to find that main-on-main end cap of the drive-through is searching for a needle in a haystack.
Well, hopefully some of that new construction will meet those needs. Yeah. All right, Dan. Hello. In my 15 years here, there was a big delta in rates between different submarkets. Also, a large delta in rates between small industrial spaces and large industrial spaces. It feels like there's been a flattening across all product types and submarkets in the Las Vegas Valley. Do you have an explanation for this?
So 2 reasons. Part of it is just the maturing of the market. To drive 12 miles and save 40% in rent, which is how it used to be. I kind of use Majestic in the Southwest for the bellwether for rents. So if they were 60 cents on a certain space, 50,000 feet, or they were $1 for a certain 50,000 square foot space, North Las Vegas would be 60 cents. And in some instances, as you move north in the Southwest and south in North Las Vegas to Cheyenne, for example, that could be 7.5 miles, and you're saving 40%. It was ludicrous. So I've said for 15 years, Vegas, which is what I call the bowl of cereal, surrounded by mountains on all sides. It's one valley. Yet we had such drastic differentials in submarkets. That shrunk from 40 to 15% in this last 8-year cycle. And the reason for that really is we've built so much big box institutional product that continued to push rents. As long as we kept having the companies moving here, local companies expanding to absorb it, we continued to set new rent thresholds. Prologis just set a new rent threshold on a 335,000 square foot lease at 90 cents a foot net. 90 cents a foot. Because they did spec TIs, and the government contractor, Global Logistics, had to be in a certain period of time, and there was one option. With 16.5 million square feet under construction, there was one completed option for them to move into. So we've built way less small bay product than we've ever done in my 34 years in this business, to the point where I think on an annual basis, if we built 3 or 4 million feet a year, 30% of that was incubator flex. Now it's between 0 and 4% a year, incubator flex. The institutions don't like it, and we've become so much more of an institutional market that the capital really drives what gets built.
Does that explain the flattening of prices between large and small?
I think it's because the large has seen such dramatic rent growth that it's
Close the gap.
Caught up to the small bay stuff that hasn't seen a lot of shiny new pennies put up.
All right. I want to move to market questions, start on the demand side, and I would like to encourage you three to talk to each other, jump in anytime you want. Start with demand. What are you seeing in demand within your product type? And any of you take it.
So I'm going to start with a question for Marc. And I hope I'm not stealing one of your kind of big information pieces. But a company like DraftKings moves here to supplement their Boston headquarters. 700 employees, 90,000 square feet. I think they took a whole building at Uncommons. So now I'm starting to see those people out in their hoodies and their jeans because they get to wear whatever they want at all the restaurants that we go to. So how much does that type of occupier affect the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 corporate relocations here? Does it really make it that much easier to get that next big occupier?
I think so. I think the name, I mean, obviously everyone knows DraftKings, and I get what you're saying about, you know, maybe the employee walking around in the hoodie, but it's the name, and there's plenty of other names. Again, you referenced the Uncommons project at Uncommons, that those are the bigger corporate users that the other corporate users or law firms, they want to be there. They don't want to be left out. So I think having those names definitely makes a difference.
So, Scott, you mentioned that Texas is influencing retail. What's that on the demand side?
Well, when I look at where my business is coming from, and I'll loop back into the demand, when I look at where my business is coming from, there's a lot of, naturally you'd think, California, and a few of those California groups have come in, and we've done deals with those groups and expanded. But by and large, I think Texas has a majority of the big headquartered retailers, if you will, the Whole Foods, the chains, Pizza Huts, AT&T, 7-Eleven are all headquartered in Texas.
Are they influencing what's opening here?
I think they're headquartered there, and I look at Texas as, you know, as a benchmark. You look at the Dallas markets, the Houstons, Austins, and you know these groups are headquartered there, and you can kind of see new concepts are evolving or expanding in those markets. So you kind of take a look at those markets to see what should be coming here, not just from Southern California as well. But Texas is definitely a hub of corporate headquarters for retailers.
Marc, are you getting out-of-state occupiers?
We are. I think we're getting looks naturally from California, from other parts of the country. And I think that where we used to be maybe getting a glance flyover from California to Austin or to Phoenix or to Dallas, I think we're getting more serious looks than we ever have. So we're definitely seeing a demand where maybe it was 20 to 25% out-of-state traffic. I think that's jumped up to probably closer to 40%, maybe even 50% traffic we're seeing from out-of-state.
Dan, are you seeing mostly regional? Are you seeing out-of-state, California? What's driving your occupiers right now?
So with the slowdowns in California that you might not have heard about, Inland Empire, for example, vacancy's gone from 0.5% to 2%. Port activity from New Jersey, Georgia, LA, Long Beach is down 20% year to date. So California, it's changing, it's slowing down, but it's still a huge benefactor for us. It seems like every company that moves here from California, 150,000 feet, 500,000 feet, there's somebody to backfill that space in the market they left. But it's a huge gain for us because we're only 156 million feet. So out-of-town absorption has accounted for 3/4 of all our occupiers over the last 8 years here. Now, part of that is because places like this have really tried to manage any expansions because they're afraid of shutdown. They're afraid of all these things that have been happening, but we're dealing with record gaming revenues here. Occupancies are way up. I don't know how many of you guys get out to the hotels during the week, but it's just crazy to go to the Cosmopolitan on a Tuesday night and just see it be elbow to elbow. But demand is changing. We're finally finishing buildings without them being full. That's a shift. Everything that was built most of the last 8 years was leased before they broke ground, when they put a shovel in, or when they were tilting up the wall. So the market is slowing. We just don't have enough. There hasn't been enough data point. There hasn't been enough time in that process to really show the slowing. But the market is slowing.
So the pace you're saying is not going to be sustainable. We have a large influx of buildings. You have a pipeline. Do you believe that we're going to get all these buildings filled up, or is this pace not sustainable?
So I can guarantee you one thing. If I knew the answer to that, I would not be sitting here.
Where would you be?
Because really, we track 243 buildings in our 53 million square foot development pipeline. So that's just work. You sit in a room for 3 hours every 2 weeks and you go through every building and you try to figure out who's really going to build, who's not, who hasn't broken ground, who did dirt work but doesn't have a building permit, who might have a building permit but doesn't have capital. Maybe they have capital, they don't have a construction loan. So we know what's going to be built to a fair certainty, and we continue to update that. What we don't know is how much longer are we going to see these companies moving here.
Right.
Vacancy went down a little bit. First quarter, again, 2 million square feet built, 2 million absorbed, so we went from 1.6 to 1.5. But we have 16.5 million square feet under construction. Now that is 54% pre-leased. So if we stopped people from occupying buildings today going forward, half of that 16.5 million feet is already leased, half would not be leased. So 8 million feet of new space coming online vacant on 156, plus what we build adds about 400 basis points to our 1.5%, puts us at 5.5% vacancy. A lot of people came to this market to develop 14, 15, and 16 when we were 5.5% vacancy because all the other Western markets were so much higher. So it's going to be a change to us when these big levels of product delivers. But even if we don't lease any of it, which would never happen in my opinion, never happen, we're still going to be in a relatively safe spot. And that's what's so frustrating with the banks and the capital partners out there who don't want to do deals. Doug Roberts is driving around today with an institutional capital group to try to get him to do some projects. And I know he's scratching his head like, why aren't these guys putting up money? So they're sitting on massive amounts of capital that's going to have to be deployed at some point because they have to pay returns to their investors, whether it's taxpayers or pension funds or whoever. It has to go into production at some point. And is there anything better than industrial, maybe multifamily, to deploy that capital? There isn't, in my opinion.
All right, I want to stay with you for just one more. All right, jump in.
My head exploded with a whole scenario, but in a good way. In a good way. I think it's interesting to hear your discipline. You said a word, and I don't want to get caught up in the financing, but permits and outside groups looking to tenant or buy land here for industrial purposes. Is the permitting process slowing people to expand to Southern Nevada, or is it always?
I don't know if the permitting process is slowing people to expand. What it did is it delayed a lot of projects to the point where maybe they didn't get their electrical equipment, maybe they didn't get their roof trusses with supply chain issues. So again, when we go through our pipeline, we're continuing to push projects out 1, 2, and 3 quarters. Part of that's the permitting process. Long story short, 25 years ago, it was a 90-day process, cradle to grave. Doug worked on a project in East Henderson. How long did that take you, freeway crossing, to get permit?
2 years. I have PTSD, so I don't know.
For a long time. 10 months. So that process has gotten longer and longer. And the problem with the county, which is where 55 million square feet of buildings reside, is you're in line with the A's, who hopefully will build a 36,000 seat stadium. But if you're building a 20,000 square foot industrial building, you're in line with them for a permit. Who do you think is going to get the attention and special projects and overnight plan reviews and?
Don't underestimate what Dan's saying here. That is extremely significant. I'm going to stay with you just for one more second, then move on. But you're saying demand is changing, and I accept that. I believe you're correct. Can you identify at this point, maybe you're not sure yet, some pockets of strength and weakness in the demand?
So strength is kind of anything 25,000 to 450,000 feet. I am sensing a slowing of occupiers above 500,000 square feet. Some of you might have seen we just leased the first 1 million square foot building in Vegas. That was actually a 2-part transaction. That's significant because we have 11 options out there, one under construction, 1 leased, and another 9 planned. So you had to do the first one to get more. And to absorb this 54 million square feet that could get built over the next 4, 5, or 6 years, who knows how long some of these projects are going to take to get going if they get capital, we're going to need some big users. Matter's building 680,000 square foot building. I don't know if Tom came back in. There he is back there. He's getting a lot of PR today. They're building a 680,000 square foot building. They're painting it right now, so I thought it'd be leased. And we're working on a 400,000 square foot deal. Now, thankfully, they want to cut the building because they want that premium on rents for a smaller space. But I thought a big user would come in and just bully their way and take the whole building, but it hasn't happened. A couple other deals recently got done on buildings that were just finishing. That didn't happen a year ago.
All right, thanks, Dan. Marc. To me, when I look at the office market, it looks like there is a lot of musical chairs. Is that accurate?
To a certain degree it is, and that's been our market since I've been in the market. You've got people, expanding and contracting. Naturally, that lends itself to musical chairs. I think what we've seen with the new product in the Southwest is perhaps consolidation of a Henderson and Summerlin office into one now at the Beltway, the 215 Beltway. So yeah, we're a market of some musical chairs, but again, I think we have been for a long time, but the influence from outside of our market is real, and I think it's less than it used to be.
So is outside what is going to take our office market beyond that?
I think eventually. It's already starting to happen, so it's not going to be an overnight change, but it's trending in that direction.
So what do you think we can become? What's our goal as an office market? What can we attract?
So that's a great question. I think that the outlook is positive for office. The office market has changed. How we all behave in the office market has changed with technology. What we can become, I think, again, we have a bright future in office. I don't know, maybe we're a smaller version of Phoenix, who also has, sports presence and good corporate presence. I think we have a lot of similarities to their market. That's one that kind of rings a bell for me as far as what we can become.
All right, well, I'll take that sports cue and run with that a little bit. And look at Scott, our retail person. Our market has matured. Someone mentioned earlier today, all we had were the running rebels. We're now really a pro sports market. The A's are coming. That's significant. How has this maturing of our market and the influx of sports affected your discipline?
Well, I think everyone's excited about the buzz of baseball. I love baseball. I think what it's going to do to that little, I read an article today, it's going to be called the Sports District, when you've got Allegiant to the south and you've got T-Mobile to the east, and then you have the baseball stadium right there. I heard talk of a pathway or a bridge connecting everything. So it's going to be exciting to see Tropicana kind of evolve from what it is today to probably a very high-end, kind of a high-energy entertainment retail corridor with all the stuff that's going on. It's interesting to see, and I would compare it to maybe a Grove in Anaheim or something of that nature. But it'll be fun to watch that evolve. And with the influx of that, you're going to bring in more jobs, more residents, more dollars, new concepts. So it's only positive how the pro sports is affecting the entire market.
It'll be interesting to see how, if there becomes a master plan, if there's a lot of smaller owners within that, how that evolves over the next probably couple of decades.
The ancillary uses to that are going to benefit huge. It's the smaller shops, the small bistros and things like that. It's going to elevate the entire market.
Especially baseball's a 162 game regular season. A's haven't been in the postseason for a while, but maybe when they come here.
We'll see, yeah. We'll see.
Dan, pro sports, has it affected industrial? I
think probably more so indirectly. We have seen some scraping of some buildings in the Southwest. We've seen some $75 a foot land trades up to $130 a foot around the Raider Stadium. Some of those bought by Marc Davis. You're finally starting to see some kind of mild entertainment parking venues be constructed around the Raider Stadium. But for me, again, kind of going back, it used to be 20 years ago, all you wanted was a developer to call you so you could talk to them and try to convince them to come to Vegas. Now you don't want a new developer to call you because they're a pain in the ass. They have to be educated. They're probably not going to do a deal here, and you're wasting your time.
That's a maturing market.
What you need now is construction lenders and capital who have kind of placed themselves on the sideline right now. What the pro sports is continuing to do is to bring more people to Vegas. And there's not many people with all the shiny pennies out there up and down the strip. Amazing stuff. There's not many people who come to Vegas and go home and say, well, that kind of sucked. I don't think I'll go back. They say, that's amazing, and I have to get my business there, or I have to make a loan there, or I have to put some capital up for somebody to build a building. And that's really what it's doing. When we get called by groups now, a lot of times they're coming in for an event, and they want to meet with some brokerage teams to talk about whatever it is they do. And that's what I like to see, because that's what we need to happen more and more and more and more.
All right, I think I want to, just in the interest of time, I want to get into capital markets a little bit. Marc, so I'm going to throw out a statistic, and this is one where we want to get past the headlines. According to a study by NYU and Columbia University, the national office market lost 25% of its value. That's $413 billion in the last 12 months. Now remember, that's nationally. $92 billion in office debt is maturing this year, and that's a record, and it's because of the short-term measures that were taken during the pandemic. So in a nutshell, the bill is coming due. Will this national debt crisis that's looming have an effect in Las Vegas?
I think so. I think it already has. We've had a slowdown in investment sale activity, pretty significant, I think to the tune of about 60%. So definitely it will have an effect on our market. I think it will have less effect here than nationally, for some of the reasons we talked about earlier with our resiliency and where owners are positioned currently, but definitely will have some effect.
All right, so for everybody else, interest rates, bank failures, overall uncertainty, has it affected your business? I mean, you touched on it with capital partners.
It's had a dramatic effect on our business. Thankfully, there's still people moving here for all the industrial people in the room to lease space. We just closed a 150,000 square foot sale leaseback. I don't know if Mike Sacco made it here from East Group. There he is. Thanks, Mike. That project got 17 offers, 3 right neck and neck. And so the seller, who's the tenant, was able to pick the buyer and said, I like this group for these reasons. And they weren't the normal reasons, but it was a great fit. We had Link Blackstone come back 5 weeks ago on a 350,000 square foot project that we pulled from the market 10 months ago when cap rates started to move up. And they said, hey, all 7 of these buildings are located around the Raider Stadium. We're kind of trying to focus on more small bay business park stuff. Can we buy this? And they closed last week, 350,000 square feet. We're launching 950,000 square feet in the next 4 weeks, 2 big projects up north that we didn't think those guys would sell. So it's way harder to sell anything than it used to be. But if somebody said yesterday, if you're a market seller, your project will sell. The problem is we don't have a lot of market sellers in Vegas. We have a lot of landowners who still think it's $30, $35 a foot, when $24 a foot doesn't underwrite. And so that's why you've seen, one of the many reasons you've seen land sales come to a screeching halt. Capital markets is still moving, but at a fraction of the pace it was a year ago.
And I think it's fair to say that sales in each discipline have slowed down, and due to higher interest rates. Are there buyers that are still active?
There's a lot of capital. I think there's a lot of capital looking at our market. I think to echo what Dan said, we've got assets that we have pulled from the market, because before, I think it was the first or second interest rate hike, the ownership group decided this is going to get bad. Let's just pull it off the market and let's wait it out. Let's ride this market. So they're reluctant to lower the price and be a market seller. Mm-hmm. They are just going to sit and let it cash flow. We've got great tenants, so there's no downside in that. They had no place to put the capital anyway. And my single tenant, and Deanna can probably attest to this, the single tenant net leased market is still good with your notable tenants, your Starbucks, your BJ's, I think you just sold, a number of these household names, they're trading at fair cap rates, but I think most of the market is not a market seller.
So single tenant net lease investments are strong?
Some.
If it's a strong...
If it's a strong tenant, it's a new lease, it's got term, decent escalations, but it needs to have all of those components.
Marc, where does medical fit into this?
Medical's still very hot. We have a few deals out on the market, and professional versus medical, we get 10 times the traffic on medical versus professional. So still very sought after. The medical office buyer is very active.
Okay. On the retail side, I think there's been pockets of retail that have been very strong. Do you see investors moving away from other asset classes and towards retail?
I think the retail investor loves retail. I've got a couple of clients that are more office industrial holders and own retail and can't wait to get out of it, so they hate it. So I don't think you see a lot of getting out of a certain category. I mean, there's going to be the opportunistic investor, but I think for the most part, the retail guys like to stay in their lane and deal with what they understand.
I also think the retail, especially the single tenant stuff, like I was surprised to learn you and Adam are selling, Dina and Adam are selling single tenant net stuff in the 4s. And Vegas or industrial has moved from the 3s up to the mid 5s. But I think it's a different buyer. I think for the most part it's a trade buyer, probably a non-levered trade buyer, so interest rates could go to 30% and they don't care if they're not putting debt on the project. So as long as those trade buyers continue to come in, which they've been coming in pretty strong, we're going to still be able to move product, again, just different pricing on the industrial side.
Mm-hmm. Those are small deals for you though, Dan. These deals are trading at $3 and $5 million. Baby deal. I don't think you get out of bed for that deal.
Got to do a lot of those deals. Hey,
sorry, man.
So, Marc, you actually that reminds me. You mentioned a new sales metric because Dan, it's tough. What's the right price? And in office, you mentioned they're using a different sales metric now to try to figure out pricing.
Yeah, no, so what you're referring to is physical occupancy. It's been a metric that has never been discussed before. That's now very real when we're talking with lenders, buyers. They'll tour a property that's 100% occupied. It looks good on paper, and they want to walk it and see it. And if they walk it and see it, and the building feels empty, it could be a deal breaker. So it's definitely, again, lenders and buyers alike are all looking at the physical occupancy as a metric now that I've never seen until the last year.
Got it. All right, so there's a few more topics I want to get to. I want to be courtesy of everyone's time. I'd like to touch on supply. Dan, it's a little bit of a, the futures question, but we have such a large pipeline. In your opinion, will it all get built?
No. So 16.5 million square feet under construction. I don't think all of that will get built, which means there's going to be groups who have done site work, mass grading, set a pad. I think once you start pouring concrete, you're pretty committed. But we will see 12 months from now fully improved sites either have sold or coming on the market because something happened, whether it be on the construction loan, the capital, or the developer got cold feet. And I don't necessarily think that has to be demand driven. In other words, it doesn't mean the tenants are going to shrink up and nobody's going to keep occupying space. I think there's just so many headwinds on the development side that you're going to see stuff that's under construction not get finished, let alone the remaining 35 million feet that's in the planned queue. So since we don't know exactly when it's going to break ground, we can't predict when it's going to finish. You're going to see a substantial, and that 53 million square feet, that's all owned real estate. So that's not a developer who has a site in escrow that we stick into the plan queue. They have to close escrow on the land to go in that 53 million feet. So we're going to see way more than we think not get built. And if demand stays relatively constant, even with these massive amounts of new deliveries, we're going to be in pretty good shape.
Will there be some opportunities for groups looking to step in and buy either existing projects or maybe half-started development projects?
Yeah, I
looking
mean,
for opportunities?
We might be bringing back that term value add. Hey, I'm looking for value add deals. I got so sick of those phone calls because they just evaporated overnight, it seems like. Then they invented a new term, core plus. So that's where I'll buy something and I'll fix a problem and I'll take a 3 cap and I'll move it to a 4 1/4. The market is going to change. It just, we got to spot the trends. We got to spot the trends and be able to react on them.
All right. Marc, despite what you hear, at least in our market, office vacancy is at a decade's low. Should more office space get built, and what, where, and how will that happen?
So I don't think in the near term. I think what we have being built now is satisfactory for the market. I do think in the long term we're going to need more. Contrary to what Dan said, I think everything that's being built in office is going to get built. And I think over time we'll need more. But I don't know if that is 5 years out, 7 years out, 10 years out. But I think once we fill up the new stuff, there's going to be a need for high quality office. And I don't know if we're going to have a short window there where somebody can step up and do it. Again, I don't think it's in the very near term. I think it's at least 3 to 5 years out.
Okay, fair enough.
Is there an opportunity for more small and mid-size owner-user stuff that can be purchased by occupiers?
That's a good question. So the owner-user activity has actually been strong. So I would say absolutely, and that's why every headline is, you gotta really dig into these headlines, because you hear office and you hear negativity, but yet we have multiple offer situations on owner-user small office product. So yeah, I do think there is an opportunity for that.
Okay, I know we're getting up against it and we want to leave a little time for Dan. He's telling me to keep going. All right, Scott, tell us about a cool concept. What do we not know? What are we going to see? Something that's, you think is going to be a little bit of a driver.
I think what we're seeing in a new facet, I guess, is competitive socializing. And I think that competitive socializing, it's a new term that Vanessa brought to my attention. But it's something we all do. We all play pickleball. We all go to Topgolf. We all go to Tiger Woods' new concept, Pop Shot. I think these are establishments that are kind of higher end in the offerings of food and beverages. It's more, getting groups together, competing, whether it's throwing axes or putting or pickleball. Chicken and pickle is another one that's a new concept going out in St. Rose. And it's this massive sea of pickleball courts with dining concepts where I think that's where retail is headed. It's more experiential. It's a cool place to be. You spend time with friends and you're enjoying something other than looking at a TV, watching a sport. You're interacting. Everyone of all age, categories can join and have the fun. So
sounds like a event for NAIOP.
It probably should.
All right.
Not to take anything away from your bowling program, but pickleball might be fun.
Was it chicken and pickle?
Chicken and pickle. They're going to go out on St. Rose. Yeah.
That sounds good. All right, I have a wrap-up question because I do want to give Dan time for Q&A. And actually, you mentioned Vanessa. This actually kind of came from Vanessa McAvoy of Cushman Wakefield, and I want to say it correctly because it's a little bit nuanced. Not what are your clients asking you, but what questions should your clients be asking you in this changing environment?
They should be asking me about demand and how the market is evolving. What are going to be the changes with their big box tenant that might become functionally obsolete? Do I need a 30,000 square foot store selling towels and sheets when I could go online and buy it from one of Dan's or Doug's developments and have it delivered tomorrow? It makes more sense. And to go back to more of the experiential items and spend time on that. So I would That's what I would.
So where is
have them
demand
ask me.
coming from?
Yeah, where is demand coming from, and be able to be nimble and address the demand changes.
Excellent.
Yeah, on the office side, I would just say, look to the future. What's the outlook, and dig into the data and the numbers. I think kind of skip the headlines and actually read the article and dig in and get more granular.
That's actually excellent advice.
Yeah.
Dan.
I think a lot of them should be asking, can I prepay leasing commissions on a building that hasn't been built?
First and second half.
But really, I actually told a developer that one time when he came into my office. I said, you pay all those fees up front. He's like, well, I haven't built the building yet. I said, I know. As we lease the space, we credit you back. And he was like, wow, this is really a weird business. And then I had to tell him I was kidding. It amazes me still when people come to town dead set on doing a deal, and they might be working for a development group that's never built a warehouse. There's one that I know of that has a 1 million square foot building plan. I don't think he's ever built a warehouse. How is that possible? How is that possible that you get a construction loan, you get capital? I don't know how that's possible. Most of them have done it umpteen times, started small and worked up. But as simple as a warehouse is, there's a lot of stuff that goes into developing a quality project. So I really think, what's my competition? What's my achievable rents, sale prices, all the usual stuff. But for the most part, most of the groups we deal with are pretty educated and pretty capable. So I kind of think we usually get, other than the commission thing, I kind of think we usually get asked the right questions. And I also think that the industrial brokerage group in Vegas is pretty educated on this market, pretty educated on all facets of this market. So whether they meet with my team or JLL or Kevin's team at CB or Donna and Greg at Cushman, it's rarely we meet with someone that met with someone else that got really bad advice. I mean, I can't ever remember that happening. So I'm kind of thankful for that as well, because it kind of eliminates the really bad projects and keeps the good stuff coming.
All right. These guys are really good. I want to, before we get into the Q&A here for a few minutes, just want to thank you guys for your knowledge and professionalism and for sharing with the group. But we're not quite done yet. Dan Tutlin, are you out there?
Yes, there was one question on the existing stadium district. Do you see all three of you actually, will there be displacement of the current owners of the businesses? What do you see the future of the stadium district? The contractors that are there, the people doing business that are industrial people. Is the demand there, or they just don't want to move?
Well, I think the demand will be there. And I think you'll probably have some landowners they're going to realize, or a warehouse or a retail building owner might see an opportunity where I can sell in, like with an office, they can probably relocate to cheaper dirt and develop a building and sell this at a premium. If it's, I'm guessing, in an industrial capacity, you could probably do that. As far as a retailer, there's probably a new tenant that would come in and pay a premium, and now maybe Wendy's goes away, or Jack in the Box, and it becomes, something new.
So I think over the next 10 years, you'll see 2.5 million feet demolished in the stadium area. Now that does extend a little bit to the north side of Tropicana with the 49 acres that the A's just put under contract. That in of itself will eliminate 500,000 square feet, because I think there's about 1 million feet on that 100 acres that Stations owns. I also think, I know that the Raider Stadium was built on a 62-acre site. That's never happened, to my knowledge, an NFL stadium built on such a small site. So it's going to take some time for that to evolve and for people to understand what's really needed in that area. And we know what's surrounding it is all older industrial. So you're going to see some of that. After the vacant land parcels get built on, you'll start to see older industrial scraped in that area for some type of entertainment use to complement that stadium district.
It'll have to be some form of assemblage.
Probably.
To have anything of scale, you're right, there'll have to be assemblages going on. And some groups are already trying to do it. I'm not sure we've had enough time in that stadium to really know on an annual basis. We know T-Mobile's the most profitable arena in the United States, but that's on a much smaller scale. I'd love to see Allegiant Stadium get to that level and be super profitable and continue to drive more events through it other than just pro football.
We have a very rare guest question from our very own Dan Palmieri.
Oh, boy.
Very rare. Jumbotron junkie, Dan Palmieri, thank you. So tying into what you were talking about, Dan, you mentioned the cereal bowl, right? And so essentially we've built to the edge of town on all sides. I moved downtown about 2 years ago, and versus being in the suburbs where it was 20 minutes to get to everything, I'm now 5 to 7 minutes to the Stadium District and the Arts District, et cetera. And we're seeing a little bit of gentrification happen in the Arts District, guys. But as we've reached the outskirts of town, are your clients talking about potential redevelopment of central core properties outside the Stadium District? Are you having those conversations yet?
We have the conversations. The problem is that I've always said shit sells in Vegas. So junky industrial buildings still command a premium, primarily for the reason you just said. They're usually in really good locations. I mean, to service the north end of the Strip, downtown is an unbelievable location to put an industrial building. But the stuff that's there that's beat up sells at such a high price, we haven't been able to make those teardowns or conversions work yet. But it has to happen at some point.
What about on the retail side, Scott?
I think you're going to see some new developments. I think you're going to see the boundaries pushed a little bit, and it looks like we are in a cereal bowl for sure, but I think there's a lot of opportunities for probably the next 10, 15 years to absorb new concepts and be fine for a while.
Well, we are up against it.
Can I say one comment?
Yes, absolutely.
Because I haven't spoken enough. I want to congratulate and thank Marc for being up here. Guys like me who look like his father are not going to be around in 10 years. We need the young guys, the Chases, the Ryans, the Sams. We need the young guys to step up and say, I want to be on a panel and start to get out there and get more educated, because that's how this industry is going to keep going. The Kevin Higgins and the Dan Dohertys and the Donna Aldersons, we will not be here in 10 years. So I really welcome and appreciate the younger generation stepping up to take the reins, because to me, there's a huge age gap in this industry. I just met a guy from CB, Tice. How old are you? 26. There's not many 20-somethings getting in this business, whether it's trades, brokerage, development, and it has to happen to keep the industry going. So kudos to you for getting your first NAIOP event done.
I'm just, yeah.
And I think Marc is going to be speaking in Canada here in the next few weeks. Is that?
Moderating next week.
Excellent.
But I'm just honored to be considered in the younger generation of the crew. Thank you.
Younger than me.
I can't believe you called Donna old.
All right. Well, thanks again to Cox, and big round of applause for these guys. Thank you. And we'll see everybody next month.